over here because this is where they built the house. Otherwise, yeah. All right, we got a few more calls to get through. Luke in Mississippi, you are on with Seth Andrews.
Was that me?
Yes. Are you Luke in Mississippi?
Yeah, I didn't hear my name, but I heard a beep. Hi.
How you doing?
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Great. Matt, it's great to hear you, speak to you in person.
He really is legendary, I know.
Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And you too, Seth.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I love it because somebody showed up the other day, and I was so excited that Seth was coming down. I was sitting on the back porch and everything, and they were fairly new to the movement, but they'd seen the show and they wanted to stop by the building. And I was like, it's going to be so awesome on Sunday if you've got free time. Seth Andrews is going to be here. And she said, who's that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, welcome to my world. But we were at a restaurant in Cincinnati, was it? I'm trying to remember. Mm-hmm. Somebody came up, one of the wait staff was a listener, and they looked at you like, oh, and who's this? And it was beautiful.
It's just we're sitting right next to each other. Seth's trying to order his food, and I'm doing a magic trick.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh my gosh, are you Seth Andrews
awesome.
from the Thinking Atheist? And you're like, yeah. And then he just looks at me and he goes, oh, you do some magic.
I was like, I wish I had. Forgive the digression. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, screw
what
our
you want to
egos.
talk about?
Talk to us.
That's fine. Well, I'm kind of a new atheist, I guess. I was raised as a Methodist evangelical son, and was pretty gung-ho in the church and in my teens, born-again Christian and all that. Mm-hmm. In my early 20s, I started calling myself an agnostic, and it wasn't until pretty recently that I decided that I was an atheist. I actually sent you a letter last week. I don't know if you ever saw it, but I sent it to the show. Justin responded to it, but I kind of described what I'd gone through. But
yeah, special thanks to Justin and the people who are answering the email, because we get more email than we can respond to. And while I've been answering more this week, I'm eternally grateful to Justin for answering all the ones that none of us are going to get to. So I'm glad you did get a response. Yeah.
Thanks to him. But yeah, I don't know.
It would have been funnier if you would have said, yeah, no thanks to you. But pick on me. I can take it.
So I told whoever answered my call that this is about guilt, but I don't know if that's a good term for it. I guess what I'm calling about is sort of a ingrained, inbred's not the right word, ingrained.
In Mississippi? Sure.
Asshole.
Ah, thank you.
And
you are my new favorite caller, Luke. All right, let's get serious because you're talking about a serious issue with grief, and I don't want to make light of that, but go ahead.
Yeah. It's more about kind of a loss of confidence when challenging or being challenged by people of faith. And I explained in my letter that I suffered from anxiety and depression, and I don't know. My dad was a kind of abusive person, and so when I get into a situation where I'm talking to people of faith that are really aggressive or just not so aggressive, but have more ready answers than I have, I lose confidence and get shaken up, and I can't even form sentences sometimes. So I'm wondering if you've ever experienced that, if you had a period where you struggled with responding rationally or even intelligibly to people that kind of bowled you over from their religion point of view.
Let me take a quick swing at this from a slightly different perspective.
Okay.
There is a loss of confidence, and there should be. Because one of the things that religions instill in people is an overabundance of confidence. They are far more confident that they have the right answer than they should be, given the evidence behind that. And so once you lose that, what's actually happened is that your confidence level has been lowered to a more appropriate one. And it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm more floundering. I'm less confident in this. I'm less confident. And the less confident you are in the answer, the less confident you become in yourself. And it's because it's been instilled in you that I don't know is a bad thing, when actually I don't know is the best answer. And it's almost always, or it's quite frequently the right one. And until you can learn to say I don't know and be comfortable with your lack of confidence, I don't know how you could possibly get to the right answer. So don't let a lowering of confidence that may be taking it to a more appropriate level be viewed as an insufficient or an unwarranted level of confidence.
If I can jump in, can I ask you about your engagements? First of all, let me start by saying I'm so sorry for the abuse that happened to you.
Yeah.
And we all understand. We understand the damage that is done. And it is, one of those things, that's a journey you're taking on your terms. But it has obviously resulted, or at least informs, some real challenges with engaging religious people. But what I want to know is about the nature of the engagement. Are you an atheist who feels like he needs to go out and be an activist, and so you are sort of jumping into conversations with religious people? Or is it happening in the reverse, where they're pushing their religion on you and you're trying to respond, something else? Paint that picture for me.
It's more the former. I mean, I feel like I was indoctrinated and brainwashed and abused, and I am sick of it. So I'm trying to put myself out there as a shield for others, I guess.
Well, you and I probably walk some of the same steps in our emotional journey out of the faith.
Yeah.
When I finally admitted to myself I was an atheist and realized I'd been living a lie for decades of my life, and that I would probably pay a familial consequence, I might lose friends, my employers were religious, are they going to find a reason to fire me, will I be ostracized, will there be other consequences I haven't even thought of, who am I, what's my identity, and then to hear the responses and defenses of religious people that were so nonsensical. Now that you see them without rose-colored God glasses, you realize this is just crazy. Then you become even more frustrated, and you want to go out and change minds and tell everybody what you're thinking, and you want to go do something about it. That's where you're at. You just feel like, damn it, I've wasted so much time and there's so many lies in play, and I want to go and counter them. Is that where you're at?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I want to.
You are us.
I really appreciate that answer, Matt, because
that was Seth.
No, I was referring back to your answer, Matt, because you said something about a lowering of confidence being a good thing when your confidence was too high to begin with.
Yeah. And I think I want to draw you back, if I may, into making this part of your journey more about you. I mean, you can be as out and proud and engaged as you want, but this is a tenuous time to be trying to go out and have counter-apologetics conversations with religious people that are likely not going to engage. You're probably, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but you're probably still keyed up. It's a hot button. It's a sensitive nerve. You've got a dog in this fight. And, I'd like to draw you back into not focusing as much on the religious people in your circle as on you. Who am I?
I live in Mississippi.
I get it. But when it comes to you and your identity, who am I? What are my values? What other things might I have been taught when I was a religious person that are wrong? What's my journey into science education and philosophy and even politics and the culture at large? What does that look like, and how does that change without the religious backdrop? And you can spend that time focused on you. I would encourage you to try to dial down the verve of wanting to go out and change the world. I think let's figure you out, and when that dust settles, and it doesn't happen overnight, and you're more in a place at peace in your own heart, and that emotive portion of the equation is sort of calmed down, then I think you're in a better position to perhaps go out. Those are turbulent waters, and I think I'd encourage you to focus on you first, man.
You got to take care of yourself. The other thing is, You don't owe anybody an explanation for who you are or what you think. You don't owe anybody an argument if they disagree with you. And I'm happy that you're in the spot where we both have been, where you are eager to engage in these things. I'm also happy that you recognize that you might not yet be equipped for those things, and that your confidence level isn't where it should be. The conversations get easier over time. You build a skill set. Go back and watch like the first episode or two of this show that I did, and hopefully it's improved. If not, I've really fucked some stuff up in the last 15 years. But don't judge yourself by somebody else's standard. I don't know as much about this, so I can't talk about it. The thing is, you're not the one who's selling something. You're the one who's questioning something. The individuals you're talking to have the burden of proof. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you saying, yeah, but how do you know that? Or even pausing and sticking a pin in the conversation and saying, let me think about that and get back to you. And then, of course, you should do that because we should try to do what we say we're going to do. But if you find that you're in over your head and the confidence thing is starting to nag at you, take a break. Continue doing what Seth suggested, which is figuring out who you are now that you don't have all of the rest of that. Find some people. I know you're in Mississippi. Find some people, that you can talk to that are in similar circumstances. You're not remotely alone, and it's a good time to point out that there's the recoveringfromreligion.org site, which is Darrell Ray was here last week. If you didn't see that, you can go back and watch it.
Yeah.
There's also...
There are free thought groups, I know, you can find
night.
online in Mississippi.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you talked to them last night?
Well, I didn't get through, but it was late. So
Keep trying.
Yeah.
They're amazing. When I came out of the faith, I remember I felt compelled, like I have to say something. And so I wrote letters of counter-apologetics arguments, and I would engage wherever I went. And it went nowhere. And it drove me nuts. Why aren't they listening? I have all this great data.
It was so obvious when it was obvious to me. What the hell's wrong with everybody else? Yeah.
I don't remember changing one mind. They only doubled down. I was frustrated. And it was only when I finally calmed myself and realized, you're coming out of decades of indoctrination. You need to sort of figure out who you are. And once I calmed myself, I also regained my compassion for the religious people who taught me, because they're victims of bad ideas. And so instead of going to war against them, I was literally trying to engage to help them.
Yeah, there's that point where a lot of people get to where it's like, how could you have lied to me? And then a little later on, you're reflecting, you're like, oh, they weren't lying.
They thought it was true.
They thought it was true. They were doing what they thought was best. Maybe I'll be able to help them. Maybe I won't, But at least it gets...
One of the best things you can do is to be you at the volume you choose, because you never know who is watching. And that doesn't mean you're scratching on people's doors. With counter-apologetics arguments, it means that you're secular, loud and proud on your own terms, and you'd be amazed at the people in your circle, even in Mississippi, who might be going through their own journeys, their own doubts, their own questions, and they see someone else proudly living a superstition-free life. They might come to you and say, I've had a few questions. Can we have coffee? You never know.
Yeah. On that note, Luke, we got a couple calls we got to get to before we run up against time, but we really appreciate it. And by all means, call us back. Use the resources that we talked about. You might also hit up the ACA Discord, tinyurl.com/the ACA Discord. I've been told there are a bunch of people on there who are happy to talk. Recovering from Religion as a number of sources. If you find that it's getting to you too much, there's a secular therapy project and countless other things like that. But, reach out. Let us know that things are going better. And maybe you're the guy who starts the Atheist Community of Mississippi.
Yeah, I might. Actually, I wanted to pick your brain about that at some point. Thank you, guys.
Drop me an email, or if you've got me on Facebook, Facebook message is probably the quickest thing to get to me, but I appreciate it.
I sent you a friend request. I haven't gotten a response.
Okay. Well, send an email with your name, and then I will go respond. But I hit the limit on Facebook years ago, and there's space now because I piss people off enough to where some of them have gone away. But I'll be happy to add you.
Thank you, Luke, very much.
Guys. Thanks.